Hey, everybody.
Yeah, welcome to the FiveStack. We're starting with Dean's skin routine. I get in the shower. I wash my face and my head. Then I wash everything on the way down because you got to start at the top. You work your way down, and then I get
Yeah.
out of the shower and I put CeraVe on my face, and then I just take off for the day. That's
The
pretty much it.
moisturizer.
I guess so. Yeah, I was told. My partner was like, she was like, "You don't do anything for your skin." I'm like, "No, I never have," and so now I do. Which is also why I have this scruffy looking beard, because apparently that looks better as well. So that's my skin routine.
You know, as a gay man, that doesn't even qualify as like the first step in a skin routine. But you know, good for you.
What do
At
you
least you've got
mean it doesn't qualify as a first step? Like, listen, I know, like, I
CeraVe
have
in
no
your-
interest in how I look, and there's one of the things about not being gay that bothers me.
Yeah.
Is that I have zero interest in my appearance.
See, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Come on, you care about how you look.
Not really. Nah, just
No?
get up and go. Nah, same thing. Like, I don't care about my feet. Do you take care of your feet?
I mean, it's
Do you get
reasonable.
pedicures and stuff like
Occasionally,
that? I just got
not
my first
often.
one this year. Like, I
Oh,
was
yeah?
like, yeah, because I was told.
How did it
She's
feel?
like, your feet are. It was really nice. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it. I'm
Releases a lot of
should-
stress.
Yeah, yeah, but I don't want to do the stereotype questions with you on the podcast, because then I'll get in trouble and fired again.
Oh yeah. You can't do that. I don't think you can fire yourself, can you?
No, I don't think so. No,
So you're
I
in
think
good
I can.
shape. I think you can say anything you want to. You
Not bad. Yeah,
Look at all the people showing up. Thanks for being here on the FiveStack. There's a big show ahead of us today. We'll be covering a lot of news, including the impeachment. We're going to talk about Mark Carney's visit to Washington, D.C. We got to
it's on tomorrow, dude.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's a big one. Plus, we're going to talk about Japan's Trump card, and the papal conclave begins. That's all coming up in today's show. So get settled in. Here we go with story number 5.
Law
Is
Are you ready?
Yeah,
You got it yet?
Yeah, I found it. So actually, this is not the right version of it. So hang on a second while Ooh,
You're on the wrong screen. This is the
It's
problem with
Monday.
having multiple tabs open. That's the problem.
One day I'll show you my setup.
multiple
It's pretty
tabs.
impressive. It's pretty impressive, because it's sometimes hard to find the right things in the. Anyhow, number 5. Democrats, they're facing a Goldilocks dilemma over the impeachment of Trump. As many of you know, there have been articles of impeachment introduced against Donald Trump, basically around his crypto state that he's building and about his crypto corruption that he's been partaking in. But of course, it's not likely to work out that way. There's not enough votes in the House, basically, to vote for an impeachment. And it's caused an immediate backlash from the president himself, who spent some time on Truth Social talking about how ridiculous this impeachment process is. Now, it may be ridiculous. It may be difficult to get to, but it may be the only tool that Democrats have to unseat the president of the United States. What's your take on this impeachment process? Because, we spoke to Lev Parnas on Friday.
Yeah.
And we left the show at the end with this call to action, with people saying, what can we do? People said that they were going to call, Lev suggested people call Hakeem Jeffries and try flip the House by getting some Republican members to walk across the aisle. That seems far-fetched too, but it seems like one of the only tools we have left. Impeachment seems far-fetched, but one of the tools we have left. What do you think?
Well, I think this is part of a process, right? Like, whether or not they actually are able to impeach him because of the supermajority that MAGA has in the United States is one thing. But I think the one thing that a lot of people aren't counting on as well is how incredibly disenfranchised some former Trumpers or current Trumpers are with Trump in the Senate and Congress, right? Is you've got the Murkowskis and the Collinses, who, by the way, no profiling courage for Susan Collins. You've got the Bacons of the world, who we were talking with Lev about, which gave me a lot of courage last week, or a lot of encouragement last week, knowing that there were some GOP senators, GOP Congress people who have been quietly suffering through this mess and know that the midterms are fucking coming up. Like, and when we're talking about flipping that house, as Parnas said to us last week, which was an awesome podcast, by the way, if you don't have a chance to go listen to it, please check out both of our Substacks. You can get it right there with the FiveStack and on both of our web pages. But it really lit a fire. And it took a lot out of me in terms of, when I was listening to Lev, in terms of, okay, there is a process that you have to follow. You can't just yank this guy out. We all know that. And that process is doable, right? Like, that process is doable. Leaning on these people, letting, your state representative know, or letting your congressman know, or letting your senator know that, hey, listen, go ahead with those charges of impeachment because we are going to come for you.
Mm,
Go ahead and do that because we're going to come for your seat. And that's what those town halls were so effective at, is scaring the living shit out of some of those GOP senators and congresspeople who heard from their constituents, like, we're coming for you if you keep supporting this and if you keep destroying the United States of America. So I agree with you. Like, I don't think that there's going to be enough horses to win the impeachment race if Democrats actually put forward articles of impeachment. But I believe it's also part of that process. So you might have a couple senators, jump out from the line and go, here, let's impeach the prick because I'm sick and tired of this. I'm going to lose my job if I don't. But outside of that, I think it's DOA, but also a really great sign to start ratcheting up and start pushing back against Donald Trump. Because, the one thing he hates is being embarrassed, right? Like, he's
yeah.
still talking about the embarrassment of losing the election, saying he's won. He's still talking about how poorly treated he was by the Biden administration, which he wasn't. As a matter of fact, they let him off, including Merrick Garland. He's still talking about how everybody's always out to get him and blah, blah, blah. This is just going to be one of those things that he's going to have to pay very special attention to, which will take up all of the oxygen in the room when it comes to getting him to change the channel away from talking about annexation and attacking Greenland. Then you'll put him in a position, because there's a psychological perspective to this too. You're going to put him in a position where he's going to be like, this is wrong. You're doing, it's going to be the whole victim thing. They're coming for me, the deep state. I mean, he'll use it to fundraise, but whatever. I just think it's a great opportunity to start sending a message and start stacking some of those foundational pieces up prior to the midterms and start scaring the shit out of some of your GOP representatives for truly siding with a nutcase and destroying the United States of America.
I think in Hakeem Jeffries' calculus here, he's thinking that he can win the midterm elections if he presents a very moderate face for the Republicans, at least for the House. He can flip the House. So I think we've seen them being a bit averse to these risky maneuvers like impeachment and other things like that, because they believe, they're a year and a half away from being able to win the House through the voting, through the polls and the voting booths, at least. Sorry. The thing that I am hearing a lot from people is that they don't even believe the midterms are reachable. That maybe the midterms is going to be too far away and too much after the consolidation of power by the Trump administration to actually be free and fair.
Mhm.
In which case, boy, does that make the articles of impeachment much more necessary now, and flipping the House much more necessary now, not waiting for the elections. But that's the calculus: is do you wait for the midterm and do it there? Do you think there's enough runway to do that, or do you try for something much riskier now in order to get either the House flipped or the impeachment taken? And it's I think both sides have a really good case to make.
Yeah, I do too. But I also, part of me thinks that, he survived 2 impeachments in his first term.
Yeah.
And like, he just kind of didn't go anywhere. He didn't do anything. He just brushed it off. Like, there's only one man on the planet that can do that, and that's Donald Trump. But it bothered him. I just worry that he's going to demean the process, and people around him will demean the process to make it look like another witch hunt, and impeachment will have lost its shine or lost its good, if you will. You know what I mean? And I think the first step towards, getting him out of office starts with the midterm. So however you want to do it, if you want to start the process now and you don't want to lose the good, or you want to, you take care of that runway, build up ahead of steam, start laying those tracks for, the corruption, the criminality, the bribery, all the things that he's done, whether it be thieving people's data, whether it was, passing on top secret information, whether it was, national security issues, national security risks, which he is right now. What have you? If you can start building that dossier and then move towards the midterm with a conceptual idea of how you're going to be able to make that work and make it stick and make every GOP senator in a state that's flippable guilty of not just promoting this, but helping him and his criminal cabal and the Trump regime turn America into a fucking dictatorship, I think that's a different story, to your point.
That's a very, very good analysis. The Trump has responded on Truth Social by saying the same playbook they used in my first term. So you're right about that whole idea that he's just going to keep using the same argument. Hey, I knocked out the first 2 impeachments. I'll just do the third.
Yeah.
I do think that the core of this impeachment articles or the impeachment articles is this crypto case and the crypto corruption. And we're seeing now that Trump and the Trump family have enriched themselves to the tune of $3 billion since his administration started because of
Did you see
Trump
that number
coin
today? That was a big
and
number,
meme
wasn't it?
coin.
And you're like,
$3 billion. This guy's not even a billionaire. So, he's busy cashing it in. And I think the end goal here ultimately is he gets the real big paycheck when crypto becomes the new core currency for the US government and the US Treasury. We'll talk about that a little later on. But, in terms of the articles, I think the thing that they're pointing directly to is this crypto corruption. Chris Murphy, he's talking a lot about the crypto corruption, and that is a huge scandal that's brewing inside this administration. We really need to spend a lot more time talking about how crypto is enriching the administration, the executives there, and the oligarchs, but how it's ultimately going to turn America into a shadow of itself if they can continue their plans around crypto.
it's really not like, if you watched you put out a great piece on it, narrative.org is Lev's Substack. Highly encourage everybody to go subscribe to it.
Zev, but that's okay.
Zev, sorry.
It's okay, Zev,
Lev.
Zev.
We had Lev. I got Lev on the brain.
Yeah.
Sorry, dude.
Okay, no problem.
But the crypto bribery access corruption story is purposely not being reported on. It has to be. Because if what Senator Murphy detailed as part of those 40 fucking corruption crimes that the Trump crime family, let's just haul that old cherry out.
I like
the
that
Trump
one.
crime family has committed since getting into office just over 3 months ago. If those are true, if one of them are true, and if he's laying that out on the Senate floor with receipts, and there's a reason nobody's talking about it, because if one of those things are true, I mean, that's not impeachment shit. That's like, let's fucking arrest as many people around him as humanly possible, because he's literally treating the world like it's his piggy bank. And I believe, just to extrapolate that out a little bit, and I was doing some research today on this. Part of me thinks that's connected to a lot of these tariff threats that he's making with other countries. Hey, listen, you come here and talk to me. We'll have a little song and dance in the Oval Office. Then we'll retreat. We'll get everybody out. And I'll tell you the tribute that you're going to have to pay me through a crypto exchange into my World Liberty Fund or into my Trump meme coin. Like, part of me thinks, like, I know this is conspiratorial and I don't have any information that would dictate that that's
No,
true.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, I like what you're saying.
Doesn't it kind of connect some dots?
It absolutely does.
Because that's what Japan said the other day. And we'll talk about Japan coming up in a minute. They're like,
in fact, yeah.
Fucking juvenile dick is distorting us. Like, that's all he's doing.
And that is the number 4 story today. Japan's finance minister, Katsunobu Kato, has publicly waved a $1.13 trillion warning flag at the Trump administration, calling American trade tactics juvenile extortion, and suggesting Japan's massive treasury bond holdings could be deployed as a card in this high-stakes economic showdown. The threat represents an unprecedented response from America's top foreign creditor, signaling that Trump's aggressive tariff strategy might have awakened a financial giant capable of crashing the US dollar. I know this was on deanblundell.substack.com. Tell us more about it, Dean.
Yeah, it's in keeping with the Substack post that I put out when I first joined Substack about a month ago, and it was how Mark Carney kind of quietly went around and talked to a whole bunch of different countries. We've been through this, and he's like, hey, and there were specific countries that he targeted for a conversation. They were all countries that held somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 45 trillion in U.S. Treasury bills. And I'm paraphrasing, but I believe part of the thinking and the impetus in the conversation was, hey, listen, we hold all of America's debt, and we have the ability to trigger a mass sell-off of these U.S. Treasury bonds and take in money at the same time. Sure, we're going to devalue our dollar, but we're going to crash the U.S. economy. So I believe part of that conversation was like, what a fucking idiot. Like, who threatens your debtor with this when they know you have nothing and you hold all the cards, you hold all the treasury bills? And Japan is an interesting sort of partner when it comes to that global geofencing of Trump in the economic world and in this bullshit tariff fight that he's trying to start, because Japan holds the most U.S. debt, $1.13 trillion. Now, it was kind of the bond play was sort of this unspoken thing because they didn't want to rattle world economies, right? They didn't want to start a big sell-off. They didn't want to destroy America before they had to destroy America. And so for Japan to publicly come out, and you understand the culture of Japan is like reverence, you respect your opponent, and for them to say what they did ahead of threatening Trump by selling off and telling him we're going to sell $1.13 trillion. By the way, we own your debt and we can devalue your dollar to the point where we can destroy your economy because you're trying to extort us, and called them juvenile. Japan does not insult people, right? And they don't threaten people. They just go about their business in a very empirical way. That's how they've always been. So it was how they did it. It was why they did it, and it was the acknowledgement of it that truly shook today's markets, specifically at the start, the bond markets. Yields are down, mortgage rates are through the roof, the dollar started to close again. And it was because some Japanese trade ministers, like, you guys are a bunch of fools. We're going to sell your debt if you don't smarten up. And that, to me, was the beginning of sort of an escalation when it comes to boxing him in. We'll get to Carney going there and what that conversation is going to be like tomorrow, because Carney's going to go there. But everybody's sort of taking a page out of the Carney, How to Kill MAGA book, which I love.
It does kill MAGA, but the thing that I'm always struck with is no one wants to kill the U.S. dollar. I mean, killing the U.S. dollar in exchange for the renminbi, the Chinese currency, is not really a good idea, regardless of what you think of MAGA. At the end of the day, I don't think. Yeah, you want MAGA to go out, but you don't want the U.S. dollar to die. And this is the trick behind selling all these bonds, or threatening to sell all these bonds, is if the U.S. dollar collapses, it collapses around the world. I mean, no longer will a U.S. Liberal democracy, which used to be, but of course may one day again be, have any chance of being the main currency around the world and the standard bearer of any business deal or any trade deal around the world, which is so important that we have a democracy holding that U.S. currency as the currency of choice. So to not have that going in the future for us is very, very traumatic and not good for the world. So maybe
no, but I would listen. I tell you what, I would beg to differ with you on the rest of the world choosing to possibly tank the U.S. economy by selling off U.S. Treasury bonds, because they kind of forced the hand, right? Not only did they force the world's hand, every country just insulated. It's like, okay, now we need better partnerships and we got to do this. Trump did this. If Japan does this, that's Trump's fault. If Canada does this, Belgium's already doing it, then it's Trump's fault. It's not our fault. This is the nuclear option. Well, because we have to protect our economy.
No. Why did Trump do it? Why did Trump do it? Because I think Trump did it because he wants the dollar to collapse, because he wants crypto. Right at the end of his road, the rainbow is about crypto. The pot of gold is going to be crypto, and he wants the U.S. dollar to tank so he can make crypto the currency of choice in not only the world, but in the United States, the main currency, to put the entire U.S. government on a blockchain. That's the goal. So if you think about it that way,
you're saying this plays into his hand.
This plays into his hand, that he actually knows that this is what the foreign trading partners can do. And what you were saying just in the last segment, where you're talking about maybe he's asking for a tribute in terms of a crypto tribute, here he's got them in a perfect situation, because he wins both ways. He wins if they tank the dollar because crypto goes up, and he wins because he gets the crypto tribute, which won't tank the U.S. dollar. So it might be a kind of option that he puts on everybody else, but it's a real extortion plot for sure. Without a doubt, it is.
Yeah, dude, and I can't wait to get into that part of it. I'm going to put out a piece on my Substack, and everybody should go reach, again, Zev's Substack, narrative.org, and read that New Feudalism write-up, because it gives you history about why this is important. You and I did a podcast about it a while ago, but yeah, I don't disagree. I just think that, and part of it is too, is this all a distraction? Is his effort to, destroy other economies a distraction as he gets other world economies to get pissed off with him so that they intentionally tank the U.S. economy, kind of playing that whole crypto reserve into MAGA's hands. So, yeah, dangerous.
And crypto works for China too, of course. Number 3, Mark Carney is flying to Washington today. I think tomorrow. He'll be in talks tomorrow with Donald Trump to basically talk about the Canada, 51st state thing, which came up again in the weekend in that Meet the Press interview. But really, they're down for negotiations about this tariff conversation, this trade conversation. Is significant talk, and this is going to be very different. Mark Carney's going down very prepared. He's coming down with a lot of agreements with other trading partners. He's a buttoned-down guy. He's a serious guy. He's not going to walk into a negotiation where he doesn't have lots of options. Tell us what you think is going to happen.
I don't think there's going to be a negotiation. That's what I don't think. I had a conversation with some people in Mr. Carney's, Prime Minister Carney's orbit. Let's put some respect on the man's name, Prime Minister Carney's orbit. Yes. And they are not sure what to expect, but they know what they're going to respond with, right? So in the big scheme of things, what's going to happen tomorrow, as I understand it, is there's going to be an Oval Office meeting. They're going to, JD Vance is going to be there, by the way. So he's going to have this is what happens. Carney's going to have a couple of cabinet ministers there, the swearing in of the cabinet member. Yeah. He's going to have some people there too. Yeah. You look in the dark or the light, buddy. Don't worry about it.
Thank you. But lights, lights are nice.
Yeah, they help.
Let's go to sleep.
And Carney's going to walk in there, as you pointed out, with several bilateral trade, security, and economic partnerships that he has already secured with Sweden, Germany, Poland, Ukraine, Spain, Australia, France. Did I say the UK? I think I did.
You did. I think, yeah. Asian Pacific deals, isn't there some Asian Pacific deals?
Some Asian countries, yes, yeah. Some really, really quality conversations that he's still having, and it's not just an economic trade diversification package. There's a manufacturing proportion in there that goes to Canada. Part of the rearmament of the EU will include rearming Canada as well. A raw materials and energy corridor deal with several countries that assure Arctic sovereignty of sovereign Arctic Canadian land. And he's going there with the expectation, from what I understand it, that there will be no deal. This is not a negotiation. This is, okay, I'm here to listen to you. And by the way, Trump played it today. He was asked about it in the Oval Office. He's like, he called me. He wants to come here and make a deal. That's not what happened at all. Yeah. The second Carney won, Trump's people were on the phone begging him for a deal for the optics of what he said in the Oval Office today, which is he's coming here to make a deal with me. Everybody wants to make a deal with me. Nobody's making a deal. Mark Carney is not going, and he said this, he goes, don't expect white smoke. Like, there's not going to be a deal. I'm going down there to reimagine the relationship that we used to have with the United States because, and I've counted publicly 34 times in the past month, Mark Carney has made a direct comment to anyone who will listen in a press conference, in a press scrum, that our economic and security relationship of integrating our economies and our countries is over. It's done. So he's not going there empty-handed going, hey, can we get some table scraps? He's going there having replaced massive portions of that relationship with other relationships with other countries and putting Canada on blast to evolve and build this energy corridor, build out our military, build out our procurement processes, and build out literally that energy corridor across the country to pull raw materials out of the ground, which, by the way, are no longer being shipped to the United States from China. So not only is Donald Trump lost before Mark Carney even gets there, Donald Trump is going to have to get in line to do business with Canada. And that apparently is the message he's going to deliver in a diplomatic way at the White House tomorrow.
And both sides sort of expect this to be the first of many conversations. Trump has characterized it as being preliminary discussions. And in fact, your point is very accurate, of course, that Carney has been saying that President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. That'll never happen. And in fact, Carney's done a tremendous job of building other ways to generate revenue in his new administration.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
What do you expect in terms of tone from Trump in front of Carney tomorrow?
It'll be a really interesting thing. I mean, he did bring up 51st State in the Meet the Press interview yesterday, which, he's been trying to avoid, but then keeps falling into it. So maybe he's not really trying to avoid. But any mention of 51st State is a provocation to Canada. Mm-hmm. If he starts going down that road again, Carney is going to be put in a corner where he has to do something. He has to respond in a way, either walk out and say, hey, you can't disrespect the sovereignty of Canada, which is not a very Canadian thing to do, or find a diplomatic way out of it. And I think that's the challenge. I think Trump won't, his heart will never resist a good headline or a moment, and so he will try bring it up. He'll want the confrontation. He'll want to do whatever he can to embarrass Carney and to win the moment, or at least gaslight people. So I'm expecting that he will bring it up, and if he does, that is it puts Carney in a very difficult position. But I don't see Carney as being weak in this position. I don't think he's going to stand down in this thing. I mean, he might walk away. He might respond in a very funny, forceful way. Who knows what he'll do? But I'm sure they've thought about this. I'm sure they have a plan.
Yeah,
but
they do.
It's gonna, whatever rolls out tomorrow, I think it's gonna be a moment to watch. We've never seen two allies, former allies probably, really have to have this kind of open dialogue that Trump likes to have in these Oval Office meetings with cameras there. It's very unusual setup. I don't know if they're going to be doing that tomorrow, but if they do, it'll be interesting to see how Carney responds. It's not the normal run of things for a Canadian prime minister to face that kind of environment.
I think it's going to be I totally agree with you. And I think there are different outcomes, outside of the material outcome of trying to reimagine, which is all Carney has promised. We're going to go there and see if we can reimagine this relationship. I think a couple of things are going to happen. I think it's going to be a cross between the Maloney interview and the Zelensky interview. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as bad as Zelensky's appearance in the Oval Office. I think you're going to see disinterest. I also think, and this is what I've heard from some people that I talk to in those circles, there are no people that are going to be in that room on the American side that can compete with the intellectual and academic and diplomatic horsepower of Mark Carney and his team. Like, not one. So I think that you're going to see one of two things is going to happen. Like I said, it's going to go off the rails a little bit. Mark Carney's going to reassert Canada's position when it comes to our sovereignty, economic and military sovereignty, and our trade deals, and diversifying and moving away from that relationship. And he's going to do it in a very Canadian way. Or I think you're going to see a very demure Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, who know that they can't outwalk him. They can't outtalk him. They can't put him in a box. He is going there to deliver a breakup letter, and that breakup letter will be: are we going to remain friends, or are we going to remain enemies? Is this relationship truly over? And Canada is going to make that decision tomorrow. So I think there's a lot riding on this for the United States. Optically, there's a ton riding on it for the United States. And that's the only thing that Donald Trump really gives a shit about, right? Is how can I make this look like I'm in charge of Canada as well? How can I make these people look like, they need to do this deal with me? But he's riding a kind of the thin edge of the wedge, if you will, right? Because he's been rebuked here in Canada. And people in the United States hate his anti-Canadian rhetoric. And that's why yesterday in that Meet the Press interview with Kristen Welker, which was great, by the way, she said, do you still plan on taking Canada by military force? And he's like, nah, I don't see that. I don't see that happening. And he started talking about how much of a nice guy Mark Carney was and really kind of toned down the 51st state rhetoric in that interview, right? And so I'm reading the tea leaves. I'm like, he's going to put a little respect on our name, and I think it's because he knows he's not good enough. Like, I don't think anybody at that team is as good as the worst person on Team Canada's team that will be in that room, and I think they're intimidated by his resume and who the fucking dude is. He's a serious cat. He's the most serious cat in North America. He is the leader of the free world at the moment. And he is being leaned on by the free world when it comes to strategizing how to put that man in a box. And I think everybody in that room knows that.
And working, great analysis, by the way, and working behind the scenes on all of this is that the economy is beginning to show real signs of distress. I mean, we are beginning to see this talk of empty shelves is a real thing in America right now. The supply chains have been so radically disrupted that America feels, some economists, like it's about to implode economically. And what he needs in order to shore that up while he's negotiating all these other trade deals and tariff deals is Canada. He needs the supply chain from Canada to stick around. He needs, all the number one trading partner for a reason. There's a lot of stuff that goes from Canada to the United States, and it's the closest of all the trading partners. It's very important for them to keep Canada open, really, because they need that to keep the economy humming in some way or another. So I think we're going to see that demure side of Trump show up as well for
like
that
he'll
reason.
never say anything, but he's painted himself into the worst fucking economic corner any president has ever painted himself in outside of the Smoot-Hawley deal. So
it's difficult.
Oh,
it's
that's
difficult.
hard. Yeah, it's hard.
Not
difficult.
that I care
That's a
that
nice
it's difficult
way
to him.
It's difficult.
Complicated.
Well, dude, think about it. Like,
Yeah.
and just a quick aside before you get to number 3.
Yeah.
80% of the raw materials America uses for everything, rare earth materials, come from China. China stopped sending rare earth materials to the United States last week. They're like, you can't have any of our shit. And Canada is also the second biggest holder of rare earth materials in the world. And we've just made an agreement with a bunch of other countries to pull those rare earth materials out and sell them to new partners. He's got nothing. America cannot survive without those raw materials.
Yeah, you can bring any manufacturing. Sorry, didn't interrupt you. You can bring any manufacturing back home, but they're still going to need the rare earth minerals if they're not, and then they can't do anything with those factories. So absolutely, he needs Canada. He needs the rare earth minerals from China. He needs some deals on the table, and he's not getting them yet. So we'll see what happens. The number 2 story is my story, and which is, I don't normally do this, but I thought I should put it in here because otherwise we wouldn't get to it. But there's a story I posted on narrative.org today about the new feudalism. It's the 8th part of this series that I'm doing about how these crypto bros are really, or not the crypto bros, it's more like the PayPal mafia, are busy taking over America and turning it into a surveillance state that is going to be very, very hard to dismantle. But not only that, they're going to turn into a crypto state. And for today's installment, I went back to an episode we did a few weeks ago about how the PayPal mafia have their roots in apartheid South Africa. That, the 4 big names there, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, David Sachs, and Roelof Botha, all have connections to apartheid South Africa. And I did a deep dive into what apartheid South Africa was like when these guys were growing up, the choices that Elon Musk made at 17 to leave South Africa and why he did that. And then I really explored whether they're building an apartheid kind of system in America, which it looks to me like, if it's not a direct apartheid system, of course they didn't have digital technology like they have today, but it's like a digitized apartheid that they're introducing into America, using all this data they're collecting, using this incredible surveillance technology to be able to spy on people so they can see exactly what people are doing at all times, and then really creating a class and race tiered economy where only the very top, only the, in South Africa's case, it was the white people, but here it could be just the oligarchs or the crypto oligarchs or the other Silicon Valley big wigs. They're the ones who get all the money. They are the ones who get all the wealth. They extract all the wealth, while everyone else just generates that wealth at a pittance, And I'm beginning to see, I've certainly looked at this quite deeply, that this is what they're building, that the Doge experiment and the new reactionary movement of Curtis Yarvin is really just the ancestor, the logical descendant, of apartheid South Africa. Which is absolutely, someone on the poll is saying this is terrifying, and I think it is terrifying that at the end of the day, the goal is to completely strip away American citizens of all their rights and turn them into servants, into serfs, basically, providing data for the very, very top of the chain to extract wealth out of America.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? You blew my mind. We did a podcast about this a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago. Is that right? We were just talking about that on the connection to apartheid South Africa through this Roelof Botha guy, and not just Botha, but Pik Botha.
Yeah, Pik Botha, the former Foreign Affairs Minister of South Africa.
Yeah, and how all, like, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, the Botha grandchild, I think his name's Roelof. Is that who you're talking
about? Correct, yes.
Sorry, I'm a little skittish on the details because it was a month, and I read your article this morning. But the connection that those families had from generations ago, and what they controlled, and how they pivoted to rare earth materials, how they pivoted to mining, how they pivoted to full control in the hands of very, very few people.
Mm-hmm.
And almost like Thiel, David Sachs, Elon Musk, Roelof Botha, like they looked at what their parents did in creating a technocratic apartheid South Africa and really a racist class system where all the power was in the hands of very few.
Mm.
And we're seeing really that effort when it comes to crypto. It's like they've taken that playbook from their ancestors and said, hey, we can do the same thing with crypto, Bitcoin. We can do the same thing with monetary systems. We can do the same things, and we can control that. We can control those rare earth aspects. We can control, like our grandparents and our fathers and our grandfathers did. Very few of us can hold all the monetary power in the world. We don't even need to give a shit about digging holes and bringing rare earth up. It's the whole taking of that plan to turn South Africa into the technocratic apartheid state. And that's what I loved about your piece. It connected all those dots and gave me this roadmap to being able to understand really what's at stake and who's doing what for what purpose, right? Which
Yeah.
is why that crypto reserve revolution that Trump and his team are trying to bring on, which we talked about, is such an important aspect that needs to be talked about. Going back to Senator Chris Murphy's outlining the bribery crypto Bitcoin thing, because my God, if you can own all of it, if you can have it all, if you can own all the exchanges, and you can turn America into that Federal Reserve that's based in crypto, you've done your job. You have turned the United States into an apartheid South Africa crypto edition.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly right. And that's why, it's interesting. Crypto has come up so many times during today's show because that is sort of is what's, lighting up on the edges of every conversation because you see it there all the time. And what you're talking about is absolutely true. I mean, South African apartheid wasn't about subjugating black people. Of course, that's exactly what they did, but they didn't do it for that reason. What they wanted was the wealth out of South Africa. There was so much wealth underground in South Africa, diamonds and gold and all the other, incredible resources that South Africa has, that they built a system that allowed them to extract that. And then they used racism as a means to get that money out of the ground and into their own hands.
Racism and religion, right?
Yeah,
Dutch
and
Reform.
religion, the Dutch Reformed Church. You're absolutely right. And what are we seeing the Trump administration do? Exactly the same thing. Lean on Christian nationalism as this fundamental sort of, elevation of white people as the descendants of Jesus and the people who must get all this wealth. And then we've seen the same racism that we've seen through the deportation attempts and through the comments and the removal of rights and DEI and those kinds of things from black people. So you're seeing the same pillars being put in place. And you have to wonder, is it because at the end of the day, crypto is going to be used to be extracting all the wealth out of America? Because there is so much wealth in America that is not mined because we've had decent environmental regulations. We've had, proper democracy. We've been able to stop all that. What is going to stop a future dictatorship from just stripping America of all its wealth, of all its goodness, and then, laundering it through crypto into God knows whose hands?
Hey, you know what? It's speaking that really speaks to the importance of and the lost opportunity in taking over Canada through Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney's win and how important that win was. I mean,
it sure was in the Arctic.
Yeah. Not just those shipping routes for those raw materials, but to your point, rare earth materials that go into things like electric vehicles, right? Copper, nickel, all the things that make batteries, all the things that make, energy that make crypto mining possible. We're there, dude. We're right there. And again, it's journalistic malpractice that not everybody is talking about this, if you ask me.
Yeah, and I'd like to see the world, also the democratic countries of the world also speak out against crypto. I mean, it's clear now what this thing is. It's not what it was promised as a decentralized system. It's exactly the opposite. It's a means of control. Mm-hmm. And what Elon Musk is doing through Doge and through these other efforts is basically taking blockchain and crypto and turning it into not a tool for democracy, but a tool for enslavement of the American people. So, in addition to rejection of all these extortion attempts by Donald Trump, they should be rejecting crypto because that is where the problem is. That is their end goal, I believe. This is the MAGA alliance. Ultimately, what they want to achieve is crypto. And if we can build a real resistance around crypto, I think that's where a lot of the answer is going to be in terms of blunting the force that this government has.
I do too.
Number one on the countdown today. So tomorrow, 135 cardinal electors are gathering in the Vatican City for the most globally diverse papal conclave in history. Trump bizarrely inserts himself into the solemn process by posting an image of himself dressed as the Pope.
Yeah.
Pope Francis died on April 21 at age 88. He reshaped the College of Cardinals by appointing outsiders from places like Brunei, Mongolia, and South Sudan, creating an unpredictable voting body where European cardinals now only have just 39% of electors, down from 52. They were the majority in 2013. So we don't know what's going to happen. I'm not going to pretend I have any idea who the next pope is going to be at this point. But there is something about watching that chimney for a few days that really gets you interested in the way the world and the Catholic world really negotiates power. What do you think is going to happen?
I don't think we're going to see orange smoke. That much I know. Just so you know. Just going back to it. And again, like, I'm not Catholic, nor do I give a shit about the Catholic Church. But I don't know who the next pope is going to be. You can put money on it in Vegas. I don't know if you know that. You can put some dough on it in Vegas if you want to. Yeah. You can put money on who the next pope is going to be. It doesn't matter how much it is. You can put money on it. And it's this Filipino guy, Tagla, I think his name is.
Okay.
He's in the lead, and then another dude who is like his. He was Pope Francis's. I don't know what you call the second guy in command.
The chief cardinal guy.
His right hand dude. Let's just call him that. The second most powerful Catholic. He's in the lead. He's an Italian dude. Great, good. Don't care who the next pope is. But going back to the Trump stuff, he put out a tweet of him dressed as a pope. It was an created AI image. Put it out on all of his social media avenues, True Social, Twitter.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's on Facebook or Instagram. I'm sure he is. He's probably on Snapchat. He's probably all over TikTok as well. But he put it out everywhere. And it was a picture of him with the Pope, and he's got his hand up, or him as the Pope, dressed in official Pope gear with a cross on it. And it was not. I wrote a tweet about it last week because he was asked about it on the White House lawn. If you remember correctly, he was standing there and he's like, "Who do you think the next pope's going to be?" He goes, "I would love to have that job. That would be my dream job." And so I wrote a post about it, going, let's see if he's qualified. Clearly, he's not, even though he kind of is. Again, we've spoken about this as well. But he went the extra mile, and shortly after one of the greatest popes in history dies, he's like, "I want to be the next pope," and then puts out an AI image of himself as the Pope. And I mean, outside of the great memes that came out of that from people, he was asked about it today in the Oval, and he's like, do you think it was a good idea to put out an image of yourself as the Pope, as conclave starts tomorrow, and maybe the most popular human, Pope ever just died? And he's like, Catholics loved it. Dude, he said that, and he's like, Catholics love this. And then he said, I don't, it's a joke. And by the way, and this is his fallback when he gets in trouble, he goes, I didn't do it.
Of course. I never did anything. Never mentioned it. The problem with all of this, the thing that I struggle with is, we were talking about in the last segment number in the countdown, we were talking about the religious aspect of the Trump presidency and how he is, amongst the loyal, considered a Jesus-like figure. Those people who, they view him as God ordained him to do this. Mm-hmm. And so when he puts himself up as a picture of himself as a pope, he's doing two things. Yes, he's making some people really furious, but he's also telling the people who believe that he's ordained by God, that he's ordained by God. And that is the trick about the amount of airtime we are giving Donald Trump these days. Every day he does an hour-and-a-half long press conference. He knows that all the networks just hang on his every word. He knows the world leaders show up and they have these big, open, long-ended questions. And at the end of the Trump's first term, when we realized exactly how to stop him, it was about suffocating the oxygen out of his presidency by not giving him the airtime. And I wonder if we're at that point again now where we really have to start thinking about whether we're just giving him too much airtime. The guy is driving the country into a dictatorship, second to none, and maybe we need to, not give him so much free rein. Yeah,
pump the brakes.
Yeah, do something. I don't know.
I see now. Unlike the first Trump admin, this regime makes me laugh a little bit. And it's my sixth sense of humor. Maybe it's like
it's funny. It's funny if it's not like your future and your kid's future and your job and your voting rights
Well,
and
that stuff,
your
of course. Yeah,
economy.
I go hard in the serious paint on that stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like this stuff, because part of me, listen, and just hear me out.
yeah,
Part of me really thinks he could just be the Pope. Like, I think he lives in this like fucked
yeah.
up sim of his own making where he thinks he's a god.
Mhm.
Like he doesn't just want his people to think he's a god. I think he thinks he is, and I really believe he thinks he's been chosen by God. And I believe because he's like the first real con man who's ever taken over the United States of America. Anything's possible and kind of feels like he might have deified status. And yeah, there's a chance. Like I believe if I got him in a room and I said,
Yeah.
"Hey, let's talk about this whole Pope thing." You joking? I believe he would go, "Not at all.
Oh
I
yeah.
think I could. I am the chosen one. I think I could be the Pope. I really do." That's what kind of struck me today about it when he was asked about it in the Oval Office, is that whenever he gets in trouble, when he puts too much of himself or his ego leads or he does something
Mhm.
stupid like this, he gets told you can't do that. You just can't become the next Pope. And he probably turns and looks at that person and goes, why not? Like, and then you catch him in a press conference and he's like, okay, I probably can't become the Pope, but I really believe I can. But this is really bad because a lot of Catholics, like James Dolan, the Cardinal out of New York, he was really upset with Donald Trump. And James Dolan supported Donald Trump's presidency and endorsed him. And that was huge for Catholics in New York State, like huge, even though he didn't win anything in New York State. And and it, and he's like, it's stupid. Like, I don't even know why he did it. It's bad form. I can't believe he did it. It was people like him that probably got to Donald Trump between, him putting that out and then this press conference where he's like, listen, the only solution I have is to tell people I didn't do it.
Yeah. No,
Like,
I
that's
mean,
it. Because he's so overstepped his bounds. And it was in such terrible taste that I actually kind of thought it was funny. I'm like, this guy's crazy now. This is the entertaining part of Donald Trump.
well, I think they've got a really well-oiled machine now that does memes. That White House press service, which they now use as the White House Twitter handle, now puts out memes after. I'm going to be posting this later on
Star
about
Wars.
meme. It's just like endless amounts of memes that they've created out of a factory there. Maybe it's created in the Kremlin. Who knows? But
Yeah.
it's. I mean, who can imagine the White House putting out stuff like this? It's
Did
like,
you see the Star Wars one with the lightsaber?
no, I didn't
You
see that
did?
one.
Oh, dude.
I guess,
Yeah, he's standing, he's like, May the 4th, right? May the
yeah.
4th be with you. White House
Okay.
puts it out. Standing with a Sith Lord lightsaber. If you know anything about lightsabers, it's
Yeah.
the red one the bad guys use in Star Wars, always.
Okay.
And he's like, May the 4th be with you. We're getting MS-13 gang members and Sith Lords out of the country. Like, literally, that's what it said. And he's like so jacked and ripped. And he's standing there in a row with a lightsaber. And it's from the official
I
whitehouse.gov
know.
account, dude.
It's so sad for America. It's just so sad when we're like, this is these are institutions that we respect so much, and to have the American White House be completely defiled by these memes that they're putting out day after day after day, and
Yeah.
to deify this guy is just so upsetting because the White House used to stand for facts and truth, and used to have a certain amount of respect that came out of there.
Yeah.
Now it's just like propaganda. It's like Kremlin
Dude, you know
style
what it is?
propaganda.
It's like a cat turd account. Like
Yeah.
it's exactly like cat turd's account. I was
Yeah.
looking at the whitehouse.gov account. There's no official notice. It's just pictures of him fucking in AI ripped. By the way, the White House put out the Pope one too. And I go and look at cat turd's account. This is 400-pound alcoholic MAGA lover, MAGA influencer. He's got millions of followers on Twitter. He's got like almost the exact same thing. I'm like, oh my God, they've turned the White House Twitter account into cat turd account. Yeah. It's the fucking best.
I mean, it's horrific. It's horrific to me, but I understand what you're saying.
It's horrific, but
people need to, that account really worries me. But anyhow, it's basically a propaganda service. That is our show for today.
We're done.
We're done, Dean, but I want to hear what's happening at deanblundell.substack.com. Great stuff all weekend long. And today, what do you got coming up?
Coming up, we've got a real deep dive into Alberta separatism. I'm not sure if you guys have heard. Mega is all in trying to get that wedge into Alberta because they lost Canada. So we've got some business to do helping people understand what's at stake. Not just that, but also explaining separatism, how it works in Canada. By the way, it doesn't. So, like, whatever. It does. Y'all can get all upset, but Canada's not
It's not
leaving
going to happen.
because No, it's never going to happen.
Not gonna
But it's a good time to be Danielle Smith, who's under RCMP investigation, the premier of Alberta, and she's really trying hard to change the channel. She's like, "Oh yeah, we're going to separate." Anyway, we'll put out a little piece on that. We've got some stuff on there on the Japanese bond stuff. Please go and read that.
Really
Real good explainer about how the U.S. Treasury trigger works and what Japan is threatening the United States with. We've got a nice piece up there on Mr. Carney goes to Washington, so please go and check that out. I'm going to the Leaf game tonight, game 1 against the Florida Panthers.
Didn't you just do the game last week? You going again?
No, I didn't go. I went to a friend's house to watch it.
Oh, okay. How did the Leafs do?
They won. It was a clincher. Yeah, game 6. That. You don't know that? You live in Toronto, dude. No, my God. They're starting tonight, 8 o'clock.
Sports?
The defending Stanley Cup champion.
I don't even know. So what am I watching tonight?
Makes me sad.
What
You're
am I
watching
watching
the Leafs Panthers, 8 p.m.
Okay. Wait, were they playing the
CBC
Senators last week?
But the series is over. Best of 7, right?
Oh, so now it's the Panthers?
Yeah, so they won their series. The Panthers won their series. I love the vulnerability here of you not knowing anything about what's going on.
Nothing.
It's really nice. It's cute. It's really cute.
Nothing like zero.
So, so they get the defending Stanley Cup champions. I'm going tonight. I haven't been to a game this year, so I'm actually looking forward to it, which I normally am not. Mm-hmm. I think the Leafs are going to lose. Not that you would care, but Toronto will because it's been a long layoff. Not tonight. I think they're going to lose the series 5 or 6, which will be shitty, but whatever. And outside of that, Bob's your uncle, Helen's your aunt. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Really appreciate it. What do you?
Are you going to do a Substack live from there, aren't you? Tonight you should do something. Like a few minutes, like just a little bit. Show us what it's like behind the scenes. Like,
you want me to do a Substack live?
I've never been. I don't know. I've never been to one of those things like
you want me to record something and put it on Substack today?
Just do it live. Just go like, hey, I'm live here. Give us 5 minutes of what it's like sitting behind whoever you're sitting behind. And can you do that? I think you can. Why not?
I can do whatever I want.
You're Dean Blundell, so you can do anything.
The premier of Manitoba sat with the people yesterday in the Winnipeg Jets double overtime thriller. By the way, Game 7 thriller against St. Louis. I wouldn't expect you to know anything about that. Wob Canoe, nicest guy on the planet. He sat in the crowd and he was like live streaming from the crowd, and everybody's like, "It's the premier of a province just sitting with all the fans." That is amazing. That is incredible. That is not something Donald Trump would ever do.
Well, you're going to get Dean Blundell live from there tonight, aren't you?
All right.
Everyone's saying yes. Everyone's saying do it. So just before the game, just whatever. I mean,
all right. I will. I'll do it for you. I'll do it for you. I'll try and give you a quick explainer. What's going on with you at Substack today, buddy?
Well, we just published that new feudalism piece. There's another part of that coming. The part 9 looks deeper into the crypto state and exactly what's happening with the crypto state and why they're building a crypto state. So it ties in a little bit with everything we've been talking about today. Coming up, we'll talk as well about the White House press service. And everyone should check out as well the thing I'm doing with Olga Lautman at 2 p.m. every Monday to Thursday, which is 15 minutes or less, if we can. The Trump tourney tracker, as we try to do that live to summarize her very, very brilliant Trump tourney tracker, which I hope everyone subscribes to. So those are the things I'm doing.
Can't wait. I love Olga. I'm going to go watch that too as soon as I get off with you because I missed it today.
And I love you. And that's the end of the show. And we'll see you again tomorrow and another FiveStack. Have a good one. Bye, everybody.
Bye.